One of the things that really challenged me this week came from Ziauddin Sardar. He points out how most visions of the future, especially in planning, are based on certain ideas and often ignore other ways of thinking. I really thought about how biased some of our assumptions can be, especially when it comes to what a better future looks like or who gets to decide that. Sardar's idea of post normal times, basically, that we're living in a messy, unpredictable era, really stuck with me. As a planner, I'm used to working towards certainty, but his point is that we're really going to have to get comfortable with not knowing and still making decisions anyway. Jim Dater also challenged me with this idea that any really useful vision of the future should sound kind of ridiculous at first. And this is something I like. It reminds me that we shouldn't be afraid to think big or imagine options that don't seem realistic yet. Because honestly, sticking to only practical ideas can really limit us. The status quo can only continue for so long until innovation is necessary. One of the more one of the more meaningful readings for me was Lewis Mumford's "What Is a City?" I was surprised by how poetic and still relevant it felt. He writes, the city is a fact in nature, but is also a conscious work of art." It truly landed with me, reminding me that cities aren't just a collection of buildings or job hubs. They're intentional, creative expressions of how we choose to live and play together. And there's the article about Gary, Indiana. That story hit hard. A whole city built around U.S. Steel, and when the industry left, the city just collapsed. It's tough to read, especially knowing how common that pattern is is in in the United States. I'd read a similar story about Janesville, Wisconsin. It's a reminder that if a city doesn't diversify or invest in its people, it's really vulnerable. That story made all the theories about collapse and inequality feel very real. I also like Ratti and Claudel's concept of futurecraft. It's kind of like treating cities as living experiments, adjusting in real time based on how people feel, based on how people actually live and move. That approach feels more human and less top down, which is something I think we need more of in planning. Obviously, it is difficult with the bureaucratic nature of public sector planning to implement, but as I learned from these readings, it's important to think big because we never know what might happen. What surprised me is how much the readings actually connect with one another, even though they come from different angles. History, design, journalism, theory, they all point to the idea that cities are more than physical systems. They're social, cultural, and emotional spaces too. Mumford, Sardar, and Dater all talk about cities as being shaped by values, by what we care about and what we're willing to imagine. Roddy and Claudel are more focused on design and tech, but they're still talking about cities evolving based on people's needs, just not fixed plans. Peter Hall, on the other hand, takes a more economic approach. He talks about the cities not disappearing in the digital age, but changing shape and becoming more polycentric. Gary, Indiana, kind of just tied it all together. It's a clear example of what happens when a city is shaped by one narrow vision, and what happens when that vision fails. These readings made me rethink what we mean by sustainability as well. It's just not about energy use or green buildings, it's about social and economic resilience. A sustainable city isn't just clean or efficient. It's a place where people can thrive even when the future is uncertain. Sardar and Dator push me to see sustainability as being about adaptability. We don't know exactly what's coming, so we have to design cities that can flex and change. And Humfer reminded me that cities should be places for communities and creativity, not just productivity. The Gary article showed what happens when sustainability is ignored, when cities are treated like disposable tools instead of living places. And Roddy and Claudel offer a possible way forward. Cities that are open source, iterative, and centered around people's real behaviors. So for me, sustainability now includes memory, equity, and flexibility, not just environmental metrics. Now, for my key takeaways, my biggest takeaway is that the future isn't something that just happens. It's something we actively shape for better or worse. And as planners, we're part of that. We just can't focus on fixing the problems today. We need to leave space for imagination, I think more critically about who the future is for. I also realize that planning needs to make room for emotion and meaning. Mumford's vision of the city as a theater, a place where life is performed, felt especially relevant. That's the kind of city I want to help build. Not just functional, but meaningful, not just safe, but joyful. In the end, this module reminded me that cities aren't just shaped by data or policy, they're shaped by stories, memory, and imagination. If we want better cities, we need to ask better questions and listen more to the people who live in them. Again, these were very eye opening readings this week, and I really enjoyed them. And I can't wait to see what the next few weeks have in store for us. Thank you.